Good morning, everybody. Another episode of the Keep Going podcast, Athletes Shining a Light on Mental Health. I got Ross Howe in the building by popular demand, and I got Big Dave. Big Dave, how we doing, brother?
We're doing good. I'm glad to be back on here, man. It's been a couple weeks off, but glad to be back and shine some light on mental health today for sure.
I love it, man. And Ross, we're happy to have you, man. And where are you coming out of today? Where are you at?
I am in southeast Iowa, New Sharon, Iowa, currently.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm happy to have you here. And like I said, anytime we get some NCSA people on here, we've had so many good ones. Talk about why you woke up early with a family to come talk to the boys today.
Well, I would say the main reason is I think Pat's probably one of the best people I've ever met in my life, and if he would ask me to do anything, I would do it. So I think that's number one, and number two, I've listened to a couple of your guys' episodes. I think it's really cool. Something that I wish I would have been listening to, in high school and in college. So anything I can do to help would be great in the area.
Well, Ross, I'm going to give you your flowers moments several times on this episode today. Ross has just been such a big impact on my life, has changed my family's trajectory, honestly, in the professional world and just personally. So, Ross, I love you for that. And the second thing, man, is anytime I get a former college hooper on here, that's an easy slam dunk for us. Talk about young, early days, Ross. How? Like, when did you get the basketball in your hand? When did you get started loving basketball?
Honestly, it kind of goes back to about 2000, 2001. I mean, my dad and brother both were Iowa State football players, so I've been an obsessed Iowa State fan. During 2000, 2001, they had probably the two best teams in Iowa State history, won back-to-back Big 12 championships. I was actually there in 2001 when they clinched it against Nebraska. Tyronn Lue is actually the current Clippers coach, was a Nebraska player at the time, and
Oh, yeah.
just loved it ever since. Been everything about it. So I would say that's kind of what got hooked me on the sport. And then, then secondly, it just uh, you wanted to go through workout, wanted to be like Kobe, but unfortunately, I sucked. I wasn't that good. That's probably a little bit of my story about how I got involved in the sport.
I love it. And Dave, I obviously going through it on the baseball side, a lot of similarities, man. Anything to piggyback off of that?
Yeah, going off of that confidence thing, how did you build yourself up to have some confidence and believe in yourself to play at a high level, even though it might have took
Oh,
you a long time to get there?
yeah, good question. I would say at times, confidence was always something that was kind of lacking from my perspective. I felt like I was always trying to improve myself and, just kind of reflecting on kind of that journey. I would say usually, when someone's lacking confidence, it kind of comes off as arrogance as at times. So I would say that's something I've always struggled with within the sport. I think throughout, I wish I would have done this more as a player, is just trying to read from other people's perspectives. I actually never read a book until my late 20s, never finished it all the way through.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So I would say that's probably the area that I wish I would have done more. And, I would say, what helped was just practice and trying to play against the best competition I could. Especially being from a small area in Iowa, that's probably the biggest thing that helped. And, on top of that, what I wish I would have done a little bit more of.
No, I appreciate that. And that's exactly where I was going into next. I mean, small town Iowa, obviously growing up, man, trying to play basketball. You have family that played high level sports.
Yeah.
Talk about the pressure on that, man, because there's not a lot of things that you have to almost be perfect in the process to go play in college. Talk about your recruiting process and trying to come out of a small town and make an impact.
Yeah, well, my recruiting process was simple. Like I probably can tell you everything about what not to do. In the recruiting process, I didn't take high school seriously, wasn't a good student. didn't do absolutely anything, to help better myself in the recruiting process. And luckily, though, it still worked out for me. Honestly, I don't even know how I ended up at William Penn. It was a small NAIA school in Iowa, but took one visit to one school, and I was like, oh, I love the coaches. It felt like they were too young, younger coaches at the time. Now this is going to date me. It's been almost 15 years um, since I went to William Penn or was on the recruiting process, but just fell in love with the coaches. And it was really my only opportunity that I had. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have went to college. I don't know what would have happened from there. And it was just the best experience I could have ever asked for from an academic standpoint, playing standpoint. It was awesome.
No, I love that. And Dave, obviously I gave your recruiting visit at Rock Valley, man. So like, can you relate to getting that first offer, or like go ahead and piggyback on that too?
Yeah, I was in the same kind of position as you, Ross. I wasn't highly recruited out of high school. I mean, I always worked hard, but sometimes didn't believe in myself fully. And once I got that visit and that recruiting process and talked to the coaches and understanding that the coaches wanted me there, like at the school, and it just made a really big effect on me, like wanting to go there when the coaches have good communication with you and stay talking with you for sure.
No doubt, no doubt. And we, Ross, as you might imagine, man, like doing this last 100 episodes and having the dynamic of players and coaches listening to this, as a player going through the process, like what stood out to you about the coaches? Was it just, hey, they want me, or like what was that selling point for you?
No, yeah, so this might be, I would say, more of a unique story, but at William Penn, they have, multiple JV programs, so they're giving a lot of kids opportunities. And I was kind of getting one of those. I just got one of those opportunities. I don't know if they really wanted me too bad, to be honest, but it was like, oh, I can come here. I can continue to go through and play the sport I love. It's an opportunity to prove myself. It's within the state, so I can go, still be closer to home to see my brother and my mom. Um, so that's what it was more about. And it felt like throughout my high school experience, I had a lot of great coaches, but they were older, and it felt like wanted, kind of one thing is, try the opposite of it. Um, and they would come in and they talk to you like you talk to like someone that was kind of more buddies would talk to each other, and I
Yeah.
kind of gravitated toward that.
Yeah, man. I think that comfortability level is so big. And that goes for student athletes or coaching jobs or in the professional world. Like being able to relate and feeling like, okay, this is somewhere where I'm gonna have success and have a chance to make a lifelong career out of this. So I love it. I do want to segue though. So obviously, I said by popular demand earlier, Dave, I don't even know if I told you this, man, but the NCSA community was so fired up to have Ross on our episode today. Ross, talk about NCSA and the company that you work for, and just yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so like how I got started with there, or
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
do,
About
or
what
what do you
NCSA
think?
meant to you? Yeah, what's NCSA meant to
Oh,
you?
yeah. So it's really been an amazing opportunity, that I've had, almost, working here 9+ years now. I think one of the cool things that we do, and I still remember this, is, we never want to turn away a family for any type of financial concerns. And one cool thing that we have is just this all-in award that someone can apply to. And I still remember my first one. It was this student athlete from Colorado who's a senior in a tough spot, didn't, lost a parent like myself. And he ended up committing to a junior college in Iowa, and then went and played at a Division II basketball program. I don't know if I should say his name, but that experience has been awesome, trying to go through and just help other basketball players like myself not make the same mistakes, and trying to be aggressive, and trying to go through and kind of find a place like I did that allowed me to play basketball for 4 years. And, I also think just playing college sports is like the best way to prepare you for your life, after athletics. Because, I think it's like the best internship anyone can have on, whatever industry you're in. If you're at a good organization, there's just so many great people. Like there's so many great people that it's so competitive, and, having that experience is just so similar. And I think that's one of the cool things about helping kids playing in college is, giving them that same experience.
Life-changing work. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I got a question for you about like jumping into the unknown. Like kind of like you're thinking about this decision, but you're unsure about it. For example, in the recruiting process of going into your first school, deciding on, oh, I don't know if I should do this or not, or even taking a job, going into the unknown. What would be some advice for someone that's like unsure about a decision right now that they're going through in their life?
Yeah, really great question. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to give you a great answer for it, but I'll try. Um, I would say just trust your gut in all those situations, and, trust your gut, give it your best effort. And, no matter what decision you make, whether it's a school or a career, there's going to be a second guessing moment. And I think just always, remembering back, hey, why you made this decision? In things like that. So yeah, I would say trust your gut, even maybe even adding believing in yourself to that.
No, I love that, man. I love that. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of making a decision because the right the right time is never going to be in the future. The right time is now. You could think about it for another day, another week. Taking action and just doing it
Yeah,
and figuring out when you get there is key, I think, for a lot of people that are unsure about it.
No, I
you
agree.
said it better than I did right
I agree.
there.
Know that from your past decisions, you've made a decision like that before. Look at how far you have come and say, "Oh, I've done that before. I can get through it. I can get through it again."
Yeah, that's it, man. And it's funny, like having Ross on, like that he's that guy. Like Ross, you're the guy that jumps into anything, man, and you go with your gut and you just get it done. And I've always, in my 7 years at NCSA, I admire that about you. Like I've learned a lot about, okay, you know what? People might be saying this or doing this, but I believe in what we're doing, so we're gonna go about it this way. And I always admired you for that. I do want to ask you though, obviously the preface of our podcast is that keep going moment, right? You see my shirt on right now. Like this is not new stuff after 100+ episodes. Talk about your keep going moment, something that should have broken the normal man down, but you got through it to be who you are today.
Yeah, I mentioned briefly about when I was 13, my dad passed away, and I would say, one of the things I was really kind of interested in listening to some of you guys' former episodes is, I heard this moment, and I didn't really want to prep what I was going to say, but I would say that was, took effect on me for, I would say, 5, 10 years afterwards. And, I think my I kind of keep going moment was, just trying to, I would say something along the lines of, kind of the last thing. It's like, hey, you only get one life. You got to make the most of it. Let's try to come at it from a positive angle. And, I just think actually starting to talk about it and sharing that was kind of my, biggest moment with my mom and things like that. Um, so, talking about earlier, I think that's one of the cool things that you guys have is a space and, this type of episode. So that might not be the best answer, but I think, that was kind of my moment.
Ross, can I, and this is obviously your episode, man, and it's your keep going moment.
Yeah.
Can I ask you how you got through that?
No, yeah, and I don't think there's a good answer on, like my keep. I would say a better way to phrase my keep going moment is just to, kind of exactly what the title of the podcast is just kind of keep moving forward. Keep going through and trying to, trust your gut, make the best decision you can for that particular day. Um, yeah. I would say there's no Webster's dictionary definition on what to do in that situation. And I think it's important to just to have a career that you feel like you are giving back and you are helping other people too.
Yeah. I so I didn't know any of this until the episode today. So I wanted to just kind of just hear you talk about kind of your legacy and living that family legacy on, man. I think that's extremely powerful. And it does make sense kind of now how you live your life and how you go about your business. And that's inspiring. And for any athlete, we've had a lot of them that have come on here and talked about loss of friends or family members. There's no true survival guide to it.
Yeah.
But when show someone like yourself how you're living your everyday life, it's so inspiring, man. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I like what you said when you said you only have one life, make the most of it. And that's what we're doing today. You're getting on this podcast really early. Maybe you didn't want to wake up early today, but making an impact, making the most out of today, and impacting others.
I think it's amazing, man.
Yeah, what a concise way to put it, David. You're giving a lot better answers than I am.
No.
So love it.
I'll say this, and that's why you keep Dave around, man. I'm very blessed, very lucky to have a great co-host like Dave. And Ross, what I would say too is I do want to go into rapid fire questions. These are kind of random. Dave knows I never go first in this, so I'm going to have him go first.
Yeah. I got a random question here about, like, if you had to make one rule that everyone had to follow in life, what would it be?
I would say, when you're going, one rule.
One rule, one
law. Lot of power here, Ross. A lot of power.
Yeah, I would say, one rule I would want the other person to have is just kind of come from a curious perspective on why someone's doing something, trying to get to know their why on whatever that may be, like, playing a sport, why they work at a certain job, why they do a certain action. Um, and, I think that's always a great place to learn other things. So,
I like that. That.
Keeps you open-minded.
yeah.
No doubt. It lets people kind of open up and be themselves. I think that makes the world a better place too. No, absolutely. All right. Per usual, I'm going a completely different direction. Talk about someone that inspires you, Ross.
Oh, yeah. My brother was always a big inspiration to me on everything. My brother's 7 years older than me. Um, he always thought he's just been kind of a huge role model in my life. So yeah, my brother.
I love that. Yeah, my brother, he was our third episode, I believe, and his episode is still our top episode ever. I couldn't love that. Oh, cool. Yeah, I couldn't love that guy more than I do, and Dave knows Adam too. So go ahead, Dave.
Love that. What would some piece of advice be to someone that is going through a hard time right now and doesn't see the light?
Yeah, it's a really tough question, and I would say kind of going through is how you feel is how you feel. I'm not going to tell you how you should feel, how you shouldn't feel, but what are you excited about right now? That's what I would ask them about. Okay, that's great. How can you do more of what makes you excited to get out of bed? What makes you happy? Things along those lines. So I think it's always important to come from a place of, hey, your feelings are your feelings on that. You shouldn't feel a certain way. You should feel how you should feel, and trying to get them, hey, there has to be one area that you're excited about. How can we help you do more of whatever that is?
Yeah, Dave, I don't know about you, man, but I've never heard it explained like that.
I love that. Question yourself. Reverse the question.
Yes, I agree. And I'm sitting here thinking, wow, like my perspective on that changes because think about this. I'm going on a rant right now if you can't tell. Every day you wake up, right, and you want to change all the bad stuff, right? We have athletes that I want to score more points per game, or I want to put more good weight on, or I want to do well on this test, right? Awesome. But if you feed into the good, and that's the reason why you're really waking up, the other stuff kind of follows suit. I think that's very positive and very a solid perspective. I've never thought of it that way. So I appreciate that feedback. Love that. Love that. All right. Well, I'm going to switch it up, obviously, again. All right, Ross. So it's the weekend. You've been working hard all week, right? What's your favorite thing to do on the weekend, man?
When my son wakes up, Tucker, you can kind of see him in the background. He's two. He has this absolute obsession with snowman. So he goes in his bed. He has like these eight snowman. So seeing him when he wakes up, the first thing he'll say is hi, and then he'll lift a snowman. They'll be like, "Oh, hi, snowman." So I just wake up and say hi to each of his snowman. So that's one of my favorite things to do on the weekend.
Your face just changed when you were talking about your son, man. That was awesome. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, that connection is powerful. Um, what are you gonna do this week for your mental health?
I like that.
I think the best thing I found for that is getting out of like going outside and also just working out. I try to run a couple mile, 2 to 3 miles, five, times a week. And I feel like when I'm not working out and doing those sorts of things, I become a little bit more negative. I'm a little bit more cranky. Uh, kind of like that the guy, the Snickers bar commercial when he's hungry. I feel like that's what I get like if I'm
Yeah,
not working out or doing some sort of physical activity.
I like that. You can tell I'm on the bike, bounce up and down. I realized on these episodes I couldn't do it if I just sat at my desk. I mean, that's not
Mm.
me. So I definitely get that. I got one more question, Ross. Obviously, man, this has been fantastic. I feel like we've been here for 30 seconds. It's been 23 minutes, which is a great sign of a great conversation. What I will ask you is this. It's kind of more of an open question. Has there been anything on the podcast today that you haven't touched on yet that you said in the prelude, hey, I needed to cover this for my family, my friends, or myself?
No, that's a good question. One of the things I didn't want to do is like have all these things prepared and sound scripted and things like that. I would, one thing I wish I would have done is when you guys asked me a question to follow up and hear your guys' perspective too. So, maybe you can share with me, if you had any keep going moments in the last year. I would love to hear that too.
I appreciate that, and obviously I've had an episode, the first one. Dave was a guest before he was a co-host, so he's had an episode as well. That was a long time ago. Dave, let's go to you first, man. What's a recent keep going moment? I love that question.
That's a good question. Um, Definitely did not come prepared for that. Um, I would say just um, continuing to try to work on myself and work on my mental health. Um, I don't think I've ever said this before on the show, but like at times I struggle with my mental health. Sometimes I feel down. Sometimes I don't feel like um, getting out of bed or just maybe a little anxious or depressed on that day. And I rely on my faith. I rely on God to help me get through those hard days and get through those hard moments right now. So right now, my keep going moment is just working on myself every single day.
I love that, man. I would echo that by saying I'm very similar. Like the faith is a huge aspect of my life that wasn't prevalent maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It's the classic meet a girl, change your whole perspective on life, and move forward. And I think my faith in having Ashton and becoming a soon to be husband, I think I've just been prompted to do other things with my gifts. And when I go out and speak, obviously Ross and Dave know I speak a lot of times every weekend pretty much in the winter. And when I speak, I try to get that impact across that you can use your gifts in the right light. You just have to go explore those. And I don't know. I sit here today with my boss Ross on here and a good friend of mine, Dave, and I'm just extremely blessed to be here. And Ross, what you've shared on this podcast today, there's been several times where I've stopped pedaling and I had to really listen to your answers because I've never heard a lot of this explained that way. Now I'm very happy that you came on today, man.
Cool.
I love it. I love it. Well, I will say this. I will wrap us up, but Ross, I need one more thing from you, man.
Mhm.
Obviously, everyone will be super impacted by the episode today. How can they find you? If we have athletes or coaches that want to reach out, how can they find you?
Oh, well, I have a Facebook account on that. So I would say that's probably the best way on there. Um, Yeah. Do that, you know, the Instagram account. I try not to post as much anymore. I don't know why about that. So those are probably the two best ways to reach out to me, or shoot me an email. I try to always get back to those.
I love it. I love it. No, perfect. And I guess my part B to this is I always try to think about during the course of 30 minutes, who hasn't gotten a lot of shout outs yet? So is there anybody else that you want to shout out on the call today that you haven't shouted out yet?
Me,
Yeah.
you know, one of the things that to kind of rewind the clock back on it when you were like, hey, who's been a positive influence on there? I was like going through in my mind. I was like, should I say my wife? Should I say my brother? My brother was more like from my sports background, but I'll give her a shout out. She's a great mom, great partner. Yeah.
I had a feeling there was someone left there, and I know because I'm a big mama's boy, honestly. I'm a one of four single mom household. Like, I know the impact your wife has had, not only on yourself, but your growing family and the dog and everything that
Oh
you
yeah,
touched on
Bronx. Yeah, we can
today.
see him in the
Bronx is in the
background too.
building. Bronx hasn't barked yet, which is great. He's done a great job,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I
He's 12 now, so he sleeps into about 11.
good.
We,
He's
we got up,
retired.
we
He's
got up
fine.
before him.
I love it. I love it. Well, Ross, man, this has been an enlightening 30 minutes. I'm gonna have Dave send us home.
Yeah, thank you for coming on here today, sharing your story. You've impacted me, many other people today. Um, you you just changed the perspective on me. Asking some of those questions. What are you excited about this week? Ask that to yourself. And all I got. Keep going.
I love it, Dave, and I appreciate it. Ross, Howe, you are a boss, you are a father, you are a brother, you are a great friend of mine, and you made a huge impact to our community today. And above all else, keep going. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys. Good to meet you.